Hi there, hello again and welcome to my channel Vital Energy. Today I want to dive in a topic that always hits me up front. I always get the question, how often should I come in for an acupuncture session? That's something that really depends on the patient. I know everybody gets annoyed when I come forward with the answer, it depends. But it does, it actually does. First of all, you have to imagine how acupuncture works within the body. What you're actually doing when you're needling is you're puncturing or penetrating the skin, and then you will find some nerve endings down there beneath the skin or within the skin, whatever, but you're actually manipulating your nervous system. Why is that so important? You have to imagine, if you're working with your body, you always have to give the body some time. Imagine going into the gym. Do you think you get a biceps just by pulling some dumbbells once in a year? Well, for sure, that's not going to happen. But what you have to do is you have to go in the gym, or you have to do muscle work for more than once. You have to do it regularly, and you have to do it in a frequency that makes sense. That means, well, if you do it frequent but just once a month, you'll end up with muscle tiredness after the workout, but there will be no change. You have to do it frequently and frequently enough. Makes sense, right? And this metaphor also is true for acupuncture. Because if you want to kickstart your body and his healing ability, you have to manipulate it frequent, at least in the beginning, very frequently, so that the nervous system gets a point, well, we have to work here, there has to be something going on. And also, if you have some kind of blockage somewhere, you have to have some impact so that you will loosen up the blockage. It's like you would have a hammer and knock at the wall just once, well, nothing will happen. If you knock at the wall several times and maybe with more and more impact, then someday the blockage will just resolve itself. The wall will fall. And furthermore, you have to imagine, take for example, back pain. Sometimes you have an occasion where you suddenly got your back pain, right? But there is also this kind of back pain which was evolving during time. That means, well, you felt kind of stiff one morning and you didn't do nothing against your stiffness, and it went on, and several years later you can't even stand up straight. There is so much pain going on in the back, but it developed over time. And in these cases, you can't hope for one single session of acupuncture to completely heal these kind of back pains. Chronic conditions often require multiple treatment sessions to support your pet's well-being and to maybe help improve symptoms. Individual responses vary. Complete resolution is possible, but cannot be guaranteed. Makes sense, right? It's also with physiotherapy. When you go into physiotherapy, they won't tell you one time stretching, one time massaging, well, your back pain will immediately go away. There will be a need for an ongoing therapy and working on your body regularly. And that's also true with acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine, especially for chronic diseases. That's a very important thing to remember. Maybe now the question raised, but how often should I go to my acupuncture session? Once again, it depends. I don't want to drive you crazy, but it really depends. If you have an acute onset on a disease, then you will need up to 6 sessions. If you have a chronic disease, you have to further divide it into a disease which could be resolved and a chronic disease which can't be healed. Let's take back pain as an example. Sometimes it can be caused by muscle tension that has gradually built up over time. In such cases, it often takes several treatment sessions to achieve noticeable relief. Around 10 sessions may be needed to support recovery and improve comfort. In some cases, significant improvement or even complete resolution is possible, but results can vary from one individual to another. And then we have this category of diseases that can't be healed. What do I mean with diseases that can't be healed? Let's take, for example, arthritis. Arthritis are mineralizations within or around your joints, and that can restrict your movement capacity and therefore lead to pain, or the arthritis on itself just causes pain. What I want to emphasize is that for conditions considered incurable, occasionally setbacks, what I refer as hiccups, may occur. These might include, for example, periodic flare-up of pain. In such cases, it's important to understand that ongoing support throughout your pet's life is usually necessary to help manage the condition. But don't worry, it doesn't mean you have to go to an acupuncture session every week. It simply means that you have to first trigger your body with frequent acupuncture sessions, that you get some kind of goals, for example, pain relief. And if you get to a certain point where your pain is, well, pretty much gone or at a level that is reasonable, then we'll go ahead and maintain that therapy success. But how does a therapy session strategy look like? First of all, if you have an acute or a chronic disease, doesn't matter. We have to get the body to a certain point that he actually can react to our therapy. And that means sessions within short period of time. So we have 3 sessions in weekly sequences. So every week, a session for 3 times in a row. After that, we will do a session every other week, and then maybe the sessions will be 3 weeks apart, 4 weeks apart, gradually expanding the time between the sessions. Sometimes, if we are supporting our patients for a very long time, we can have our sessions 5, 6, 7 weeks apart, sometimes even 2 months, 3 months. If your patient gets worse in the time period between the acupuncture sessions, then you have to make this duration shorter. But to wrap it up, we have acute and we have chronic diseases. But both of them start with a 3 in a row session period where we will be having these weekly sessions. And after that, we will expand the time between sessions gradually, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks apart. And then we oftentimes have these monthly sessions or whenever needed. But when should I expect to see some improvement within my patient? Once again, it depends. Still don't want to get you mad, but sometimes you will see an improvement of the state of your patient after the first session. Maybe the next day they walk around almost fine if they have, for example, a lameness problem. But within the next sessions they won't improve as much as in the first session. Does happen. But it also can happen that the first couple of sessions you won't see anything. I know it's frustrating, but it can happen, and it happens a lot of times. So let me tell you, within 5 sessions you should see some kind of improvement. Well, it does happen that it takes 8 sessions, but usually I tell my clients we try acupuncture 5 times and we should see an improvement. If we don't, then let's change our treatment plan. For example, we focus in Western medicine, or we have to do surgery, or we do other manually therapy methods like osteopathy, physiotherapy, something like that. But luckily, these patients that aren't responsible to traditional Chinese medicine or acupuncture therapy are very rare. You almost always get some kind of improvement within your patient. Maybe you can't resolve the disease completely, well, but almost certainly the patient will at least getting better. The chance that you are not responsible to acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine in general is under 10%. So well, they are rare. Now I want to take you with me to another area of this topic. Let's talk about acupuncture combined with herbal medicine. Well, I love it to introduce both acupuncture and herbal medicine within my patient. And the reason is you won't do acupuncture on a daily basis, but herbal medicine, you will do it on a daily basis. So we can support our patient with plants, herbal mixtures on a daily basis, and therefore our treatment gets more effective. Because both of these therapy methods, they are intertwining. So if you're introducing plants, almost certainly you will have to do the acupuncture sessions less frequently, so you don't have to do as many acupuncture sessions as you would if you won't do the plants. How much time do acupuncture sessions usually take? The first session will be 90 minutes because you have to ask a lot of questions around the animal. And why is that so important? I have done another video dedicated to this question. I will link it up here. You can go through that one and then you will have the answer. Well, but after your questions, you will also palpate your animal, and after your questions, you will have a detailed look on your patient. For example, you will use your hands, do palpation and stuff like that. Then you will find out a lot of things. Also, check out this video, then you will have some explanations why we will do that. But just to wrap it up, the first session does take longer. So 90 minutes will be reasonable to block within your agenda. And the follow-up sessions will take place within 45 and 60 minutes. Now let's imagine we are in our session for acupuncture. We have our dog lying there on the ground with needles sticking in there. Then my clients usually ask this question. But for how long does my dog has to stay there like this? There is no simple response to this question. Again, it depends. But in general, the optimal time frame for the needles staying within the body is 15 to 20 minutes. But sometimes we are just sticking in the needle and it immediately falls off. And also sometimes when that happens, the patient maybe won't allow me to place it once again. If that happens, don't panic. As long as you stuck your needle through the skin into the body, there will be some impulse. And this impulse will manipulate your nervous system, and so you will get some results or response of the body, and it will be beneficial to the therapy. Sometimes we have these cases where we have our needles in place, but we also want to use some electro on the needles. Well, you heard right, electro on the needles. Don't get scared. It doesn't mean electroshock, not at all. It does mean that we combine needles with wires, and then we have very small electro impulses that are running through our needles and between the needles within the body. And if we're doing that, then we want to have the needles and the wires installed for 30 minutes. And if you want to know more about electroacupuncture, then leave a comment down below so that I can see that I should do a video on electroacupuncture, that it actually is of interest. And also do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so that you won't miss that video. Let's go to our last question. Can you be prepared for your acupuncture session, or should you prepare in some ways for your acupuncture session? Are there any rules around your therapy session? Yeah, there are some rules and you have to prepare in some ways. So let me go through some things. First of all, you shouldn't feed your animal within an hour before your session. And also, don't feed it within an hour after the session. That doesn't include some little pieces of food, especially if you have to get your animal relaxed during the acupuncture session so that the animal wouldn't have its mind on the needles. This also is related to sports. Don't have a training session 1 hour before the session and 1 hour after the session. That triggers your nervous system. Since we are working with your nervous system, you can't work with a busy nervous system. If you're still triggered from your training session, then my manipulation won't go through. And in regards to calming down, your animal could get very tired because of acupuncture, because you're releasing so many neurotransmitters and manipulating your nervous systems. So it's very tiring for your patient or for your animal. And the body has to work for the next couple of days. So don't get stressed out if your animal is very tired the next day, the next 2 days, or even the next 3 days after the acupuncture session. It's totally fine, it's totally normal. And give your animal time to give its body this well-deserved break. Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff in this video, but I'll try to melt it down for you. First of all, acupuncture sessions should be held regularly. It's very important so that the body can get a kickstart into his healing process. And also, you have to do more than one session. Just one session is simply not enough. It doesn't do any good. It's just frustrating that you won't see any results. You have to do at least 5 sessions so that you can see if your patient is reacting to that therapy method, or that we actually can get to some goals. You should expect to have 5 sessions at least. And before you go, I have something very important to say to you. If you have an animal at home that is suffering from a disease, please don't just rely on these kind of videos, because they are just for educational purposes only. If you have an animal at home that is suffering from a disease, please take it to a vet, that the vet can have a look on it and diagnose it accordingly. It is very important that your animal gets a treatment plan especially designed for its disease. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm really looking forward to see you again in the next video where we will go on a journey through traditional Chinese medicine. Well, see you, bye!